What's the good word, y'all? Welcome to the New York Jets Syndicate channel. This is your boy DKB here, and PFF has ranked our wide receiver group as the 20th best in the NFL, essentially in the lower section of just being average. So I guess a C minus within the range of the NFL. And I wanted to figure out why that was, because it seems like we definitely have a much better group than that. And so it came as a shock, I guess. I definitely think we have one of the better groups. I wouldn't say we're necessarily average, but from what, and by the way, this came from Trevor Sikkema from PFF, but what he mentioned in terms of where we're sitting at, he says Garrett Wilson is a strong start for this exercise as he's earned an impressive 85.9 receiving grade as a rookie. He'll be joined by newcomers Allen Lazard and Mecole Hardman, but the Jets also boast Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, and Randall Cobb. Throw in tight ends CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin, and this feels like one of the deepest groups in the league. So just by virtue of what he's saying there, deepest in the league, you would imagine that we would be higher on this list, right? It's a lot of teams out there that if you lose one player, that can decimate the whole offense somebody's trying to run, right? A lot of the times you see that an offense is kind of built around one player and other people are eating off of the success that one person has, even if they're not, touching the ball every single play. And with the New York Jets, I don't think that's the case, right? So one of the caveats with this list, right, this isn't a pure wide receiver ranking group. So that already kind of skewed in my mind a lot of things and made this practice, as he called it, not even worth it. But for what it's worth, I went ahead and dived into some things on my own. So they pretty much accounted for anybody that was involved in receiving game in a positive manner, right? What does positive manner mean? Not too sure. You'll be hard pressed to find too many people with a negative receiving total within the the NFL ranks. But nonetheless, we took a look. At least I did. Our top five playmakers in the receiving department in terms of targets. And I kind of took a look at where we ranked in three key areas. So, of course, the targets, the yards that they totaled up that season, and then yards per catch or yards per reception. You'll see either one. But we had Garrett Wilson, of course, at the top. He ranked 8th in the NFL with 147 targets. Corey Davis was 99th in targets with 64. Tyler Conklin was 58th in targets with 87. And then we had Elijah Moore, 95th in targets, 65. Michael Carter, 119 with 54. And I went by the Pro Football Reference statistics that they counted up. So unfortunately, for the most part, I couldn't find too much stuff to strictly focus on the wide receivers, tight ends, and then running backs, or at least I had the data. But that's a lot of stuff to put together for this particular exercise. So just bear with me. To some degree, you guys have an understanding of what we're looking at here. For the yardage, Garrett Wilson, again, 15th in yards, 1,103 yards on the season. Corey Davis was 74th with 536. Tyler Conklin was 69th with 552. Elijah Moore was 98th with 446. And then Michael Carter had 288, which makes him 157. So just kind of looking at those two immediate areas, obviously Garrett Wilson stands out from this pack in these particular measurements, and then you don't really see any other level of dominance or like high impact from anybody else. Corey Davis, his numbers are skewed by virtue of not really being able to stay on the field the entire season. Then of course he also has a little bit of the case of the butterfingers here and there, much the same with a guy like Tyler Conklin, who was able to be on for the majority of the season, but again, a lot of balls that touch dirt. Elijah Moore, between the personality, or let's just call it personality conflicts, the suspensions that he was on, and then the weird ghosting in the first quarter of the season where he couldn't really get involved whatsoever, not for lack of skill. He ended up kind of being just a tad bit below Corey Davis and Tyler Conklin. So you imagine it, he's much closer to a Garrett Wilson than he is anybody else on this roster, which Corey Davis is technically the next best receiver. So that makes a ton of sense. And then when we get into the yards per catch, Garrett Wilson, 26th in the NFL with 13.3 yards. Corey Davis was 4th with the 16.8 yards per catch. So that was his big play element, right? That's really what he's brought with the New York Jets since he stepped on the field 2 years ago. And that's really the biggest selling point, whether we keep him or he's involved in a trade. Elite run blocking skills, and then he offers that big play ability that we haven't necessarily seen a lot from anybody else. Tyler Conklin was 104th with 9.5. Elijah Moore was 53rd with 12.1. And then Michael Carter was 130th with 7 yards per catch. So pretty strong for a running back, I'd imagine, right? I think the elite tier is closer to like the 9 to 11 yards per carry range. But still, I think from what we are looking for, you do see some stronger numbers considering this is a yards after catch offense. At least that's what it should have been. Michael LaFleur ended up being a lot closer to an Adam Gase in terms of not marrying the talent to the scheme and making it look really like a lot of the players and just from an offensive standpoint that were lost for the majority of the season. But still, strong numbers. Garrett Wilson, a pretty solid number considering the volume of targets he was getting. Keep in mind, he also was phased out for the first game of the season, realistically, and then after week 2 it was a wrap. And then again, insert same situation for Corey Davis, Tyler, Elijah Moore with some of the absences from the offense. Now, I don't have this final number for Michael Carter, but I did want to take a look at how productive we were being in the red zone in terms of helping to assist with putting up points on the board. Garrett Wilson was 9th, and this one did seem like it was broken down by unit from what I saw. So for wide receivers, Garrett Wilson was 9th with 19 targets in the red zone. Corey Davis was 67th with 7 targets in the red zone. Tyler Conklin was 43rd for tight ends with 4 in the red zone. Elijah Moore was 67th with 4 wide receivers with 7. And then Michael Carter, I couldn't really find a number, but I feel like he's somewhere between 3 and 5 from what I can remember. And that's mostly because a lot of those key drops that he had this season that had a lot of us hurt were in the red zone specifically that I can recall from at least 2 or 3 separate games. So I'm sure he's probably somewhat high on the list in terms of running backs. But there we go. I don't know. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. How impressed are you with our pass catching options as a whole, since that seems like what they truly rated here, weaponry and not necessarily just the wide receiver unit. But where would you rank us? And I look forward to seeing what you guys think. Catch you guys again. Peace.